Hello, and welcome to the Modern Romantic Podcast, where we celebrate romanticism through art, storytelling, nature, music, poetry, creating, and passionate people doing incredible things. Hello, I'm a lousy liar, but I'm a good singer. And I'm joined today by my co host, Emily.
Yay.
A reminder for our listeners tonight, if you are watching live right now, you need to go listen to our other podcasts. We do invite you. This is your cordial invitation. I'm sorry it's not embossed. There wasn't enough time for that. They are available on all the best podcast outlets, though. That does make up for things. So just go look for us under Modern Romantic or visit our website at themodrom.com and click podcast up at the top. If you didn't know by now, we live stream all of our interviews, and you are cordially invited yet again to join us. Interact with our guests every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. Visit twitch.tv/The Modern Romantic to follow us and subscribe. And don't forget to follow our social media channels. We invite you to share us with a friend. And you know by now what my normal spiel is. Share us with a friend, share us with your brother, share us with your grandma, because she needs a friend too. It doesn't. Emily, would you do me a solid, and would you like to introduce our guest tonight? I
20? It might have been 20.
Emily, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Apparently, our audience cannot hear you. No.
Yes, I can hear you.
I will now do an interpretive dance for the introduction that Emily just gave. Yes.
Yes.
The audio sounds a little bit more muffled now.
I agree.
And now I can't hear you at all. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you. We'll give a test. Archer said, no, not yet. Mm-hmm. No worries. So an introduction from Emily. Sorry, could you hear myself? So introduction from Emily. we have the incredibly talented harpist Stephanie Claussen joining us here today. Emily met Stephanie at a Renaissance festival. I will not mention how many years because that is distasteful. Uh, um, but they have known each other and been in contact with each other for several years. Stephanie is a working artist, has performed across the world, and has performed things from Bach all the way up to modern, to Irish and Scottish folk songs, and literally everything, including jazz, which I did not expect. I did not expect that. But
Yay.
an incredibly talented harpist, harper, which we'll discuss a little bit later, the difference between those two terms. Please, everybody, Lord and Fey folk of the realm, please give it up for Stephanie Claussen. Ah,
Hello.
ah,
Can you hear me?
ah. Yes, I can hear
Yes,
you.
we can hear
Yes.
All right. Yeah. All are cute and everything, but still can't hear Emily. Hold on. That was a second ago.
you. Oh, dear.
Now? Yeah. Okay. I can hear me now.
Yay!
At this point, if you guys can't hear me, I'm sorry. We're just gonna go with this.
We could just
Are you kidding
repeat
me?
everything.
Sorry. He just said sorry. Still can't hear Emily.
Oh.
Testing. Oh, it's low. That's what's going on.
Okay.
Keep going. We're good. We're good.
No worries. So Stephanie, hi.
Hello. It's my pleasure to be here.
That's awesome. With anyone that comes onto our show, really the first question that I have to ask is, how did you get started? And especially with being a harp, because it's not always like one of the most common instruments. So I would love to know how you got started.
Yes. So there were a number of things which I don't think are a coincidence that sort of combined in my life. My father was working for a company called Music Makers, which is out in Stillwater.
Oh yeah.
And they make harp kits. They also make completed harps, but you can build your own kit. So my dad was working as a graphic designer for them. And then a professional harpist, Kathy Victorson, moved in next door to my parents. And so they thought, wow, Rand is working at a company that makes harps. We have 2 daughters. We have a professional harp teacher living literally across the driveway from our house. They should start taking harp lessons. So I was 7 years old, and I don't have the story like many harpists have where they saw a harp in a school presentation or a concert and they just said, that's it. That's the instrument that I'm going to play. For me, it was more, my parents said, you're going to start harp lessons. And I was like, okay, cool. Sounds fun. And so that was when I was 7. And I remember enjoying it as a child. And then for a while, I thought, this is so much fun that I would never want to do this as work. I don't want to spoil it and mess it up with business logistics. And then around the time I got to college, I realized I love this so much that I can't imagine doing anything else for the rest of my life. And my parents were both self-employed. And so they had modeled for me the fact that it's possible to make a living as a self-employed person. And here we are today.
All right. Real quick, can you hear me now? I don't want to do this. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me.
We can hear you. Arjun said yes.
Because I could see the level tapping out even. But it's really quiet. Like on my end, I could see the mic like maxing out on volume. I've turned everything up as far as it'll go. I don't know.
Right. I turned you a little up in Restream.
Oh, maybe that was it.
You were... Okay. Oh.
I turned it up more.
Okay.
Well, I'm further away from the mic that's actually working. better. Okay. I'm just going to talk really loud. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, when I first ran into you at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival, I don't know how old you would have been, but your CD had just come out. So,
Yes. Oh, that was right at the beginning.
was it? Okay.
I was probably 12.
Okay. I was going to guess around there, but I'm a terrible judge of age. And I was, gosh, I don't know how old I would have been. 20 something.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was awesome. I remember being so excited because it was the first time I had really supported like an independent artist of any kind. I hadn't bought a CD out at the Renaissance Festival before, and I was just really, I just thought it was cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, so many people come back to nowadays, just, you know, I bump into people and they're like, oh, I bought your first CD however many years ago. And that's really fun that they still remember that, you know? They
That is cool. And you've done other albums since then?
have, yeah. I don't even know how many. Four
Okay.
solo albums and then a couple collaborations with people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Believe if I'm reading the list correctly, the newest album, let me get my English together, was The Road Home from Skye.
Yes. Yes, I'm very proud of that one because I grew up learning Scottish and Irish music, and I had released that album when I was like 11 years old to start working at the Renaissance Festival. And then I did another one when I was 15, also of Scottish and Irish music. And then I kind of did some other stuff and got my degree, and I'm working as a professional harpist with quite a bit of Scottish and Irish music in my repertoire. And the only kind of example that I could sell to people was from when I was 15. And I've improved a bit as a harpist since then.
I understand that the harp is like a very large instrument. And when you said that you were 7 with this like massive instrument, all I can picture is like tiny thing with just like this massive thing, just like reaching out with giant hands.
Yes, pretty much. Harps come in different sizes, of course. So the one that I started on was slightly bigger than this harp, which is about 5 feet tall, maybe. And we have pictures of me playing that harp then, and then pictures of me playing it now. And it's just funny how the proportions seem to have changed. It's kind of an amusing contrast. But often harpists will start with a small, this is called a lever harp, and it's the kind that you would see with some, but like a Scottish or Irish music concert, as opposed to a pedal harp, which is the type you would see in a concert hall playing with the orchestra. You know, those are 6 feet tall. They weigh 80 pounds. They're like the biggest kind you can get, but they do come in all different ways.
Okay. Do you have, I imagine you get a lot of requests for songs. Do you take requests? Is that something that you find yourself going, oh, I don't want to play that again? Or do you have one that's a favorite? Either.
I think green sleeves is the most commonly requested one, which I do enjoy. I know some harpists who are tired of green sleeves. And then people also love Danny Boy, which I am very tired of Danny Boy. And I would definitely just tell myself you never have to play that, except that if I play in nursing homes, the whole crowd just starts singing and people are crying and they love it. I'm like, I don't have to love the piece to be able to serve them and play it for their sake.
Right.
You know, but like, what's the other one? Oh, this just shows how out of touch I am with modern music. Stairway to Heaven.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Everybody asked for that one, and I listened to it once to see if I wanted to learn it, and I just thought, it doesn't really do anything for me, so I'm not going to bother, because there are other harpists who play it on YouTube. Yeah.
That's cool
The-
that you get such a response to Danny Boy.
Yeah, the harp really seems to touch something very emotional in people. I'm surprised by how many people just cry when I play for them, or have this kind of odd reaction of, this is an amazing, beautiful thing that I've never seen in person. And for me, I'm maybe a little bit inured to that because it's just been my life since I was 7. But every so often I get this glimpse, like a new harp piece that some other harpist plays, and I feel this, like, whoa, that's what it feels like when other people hear the harp for the first time. That's super cool for me.
Is a harp something you could play by ear? Is that a thing?
Definitely.
Tells you what I know about music. I don't know. Like, I imagine if you'd never played the harp before, you couldn't, because you wouldn't know which string was what. But
Well, I think that harp is an interesting instrument because it sounds really nice from the very beginning. Like if you just walk up to a harp and you pluck a string, you don't really need any special technique to sound nice.
okay.
And so if you're learning harp and you've taken 2 lessons and you've learned it too, and you can play it and it sounds really enjoyable. And then it just kind of has a lot of depth to it, so you can keep improving. I've been playing for 28 years now, and I definitely still feel like I am improving. Like I can look back 6 months ago and I think, wow, I've learned a lot since then. And there's so much that I don't know yet.
That's amazing.
It's encouraging and discouraging at the same time.
Well, I guess it can never get old I mean, that's probably not accurate, but it doesn't have to if there's always somewhere to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if
Yeah.
it is, oh, Danny Boy again and again.
As long as people keep crying and singing, I think I will still be able to play Danny Boy.
Speaking of green sleeves, geez, have you seen anything of Six the Musical?
No.
It's the story of. It's like in total honesty, it's a fever dream. But it's what if the wives of King Henry VIII were part of a concert, and they were all performing artists, and singing pop songs, and each of their songs is like a recap of their life.
Oh, wow.
The one for Anne Boleyn makes fun of the fact that she wrote Greensleeves consistently throughout it, and they'll play like little bits of it throughout her song, or the song that she sings as just kind of a backdrop to it. And it's worth a listen. Go ahead.
Oh, I had always heard that King Henry VIII wrote Greensleeves. Did Anne Boleyn write it?
I think she actually wrote it, but being a woman, they wouldn't really give her credit for that.
Sure, that makes sense. Or, well, I understand.
Go ahead.
According to the interwebs, it says it probably wasn't written by Henry VIII, but it was said it was known at the time, whether it was true or not, that he wrote it for Anne Boleyn, but it doesn't mean that he actually wrote it.
Okay.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll do like a fact check on that one or something.
We'll go to Snopes.
Yeah, I mean it's like a legend and a widely believed legend, but just unproved. So let's just go to Snopes. Wikipedia.
This is what we need time machines for.
Right.
Go back and investigate.
Just go back to Greensleevespedia.
Which was what, like I don't know, the town crier on the side. Did you know that King Henry VIII did not write Greensleeves?
I feel like that might not have been a safe thing to say. I mean,
Off with your head. Right. Right. That is the end of you. Do you still play out at the Renaissance Festival?
I haven't for the last few seasons.
Okay.
I did a total of 15 seasons, kind of on and off a couple times, but I'm in an off moment.
That's
currently.
a long time, though.
Yeah. It's
That's-
really been kind of a pivotal. No. It's made a lot of impact on my life. We'll say
Sure.
it that way.
And is Minnesota the only one you've played at, or did you do others?
There's a little one in Wisconsin called Wren in the Glen.
Mm-hmm.
I think one weekend. And so I've done that 2 years in a row, I think, with my early music ensemble, the Ravenscroft Music Guild. And that was quite fun.
Okay, cool.
But those two.
We put on our Discord that you were going to be on the show tonight, and one of our regular listeners, Kaz, said she had heard of you. And that's why I asked, because she's in Kentucky. And so
Okay.
I thought maybe you had made the rounds to other festivals, but somehow she's heard of you.
Nice.
So you're a little bit famous, at least.
Yes.
And your YouTube channel is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's something I noticed. Some of the video is really lovely, and I enjoy the snow shots and stuff like that. That's cool.
I've been enjoying having a little bit more time for that these last couple of years, as other things have not been going like normal.
Right.
Oh, YouTube, that's a good use of time.
Yeah, that's a great way to get your music out, and I've enjoyed it on YouTube anyway.
Yay.
Is there so I'm not going to ask you for Danny Boy. I'm not going to ask you for Greensleeves, but I will ask, is there a piece that you played either recently or in the span of your career as a harpist that you're like, I'm dying for someone to ask for this?
Oh, goodness. Well, I feel like often I just play what I want, regardless of what people ask me for. But I can tell you my go-to piece that I have when people say, oh, you play the harp, play something for me, is The Star of the County Down. It's a traditional Irish tune. I don't know if you would care to hear it.
I would. I don't know if I've heard
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm hoping the mic doesn't buzz too much because it's set for speaking.
Okay.
But I'll just do a short version.
Very nice.
Thank you. So that's probably my favorite tune. It's lasted for the last 20 years, 28 years. No, I haven't known it that long, about 25 years of people saying, oh, can you play something for me? That's the one. And it doesn't really get old for me. Maybe someday it will and I'll get a new one. But for now, it's still good.
That's great. Do you play every day then? Like, do you try to get harp time in every day, or do you take breaks?
I definitely take breaks. My rule for my students is 6 days a week, because I think that seventh day off is just healthy, both mentally and physically, because I've had some tendonitis issues before. But also, I'm not a very I'm a disciplined person, but I prefer to be disciplined when I'm motivated to do that particular thing. So occasionally I'm motivated to work on arranging or music editing. And so I'll spend days just working on what the music looks like on the sheet music and not even touch my harp. And then other times I will not do any of my emails, and I will just spend all the time practicing because that's what I'm motivated to do. And since I'm self-employed, that pretty much works more or less. Occasionally there crunch time where it's like, wow, you really have to practice an hour today. And if you don't, you're going to just be terrified tomorrow. That's a good motivator too.
Sure. So you do teaching as well?
Yeah, I have a private studio that I run out of my home, and I have about 20 students, kind of give or take. Yeah.
Nice.
I really enjoy it.
I had another question and I forgot it. It had to do with downtime and balance. I'll think of it eventually.
One thing I would like to know, and you know how like violinists have go in awe of the Stradivarius. Is there a particular like harp or style of harp or manufacturer of harps that you're just like, if I could just get my hands on one of those, that's my dream.
So many.
All right, let's talk. Money is no object.
Oh, goodness.
What would you pick? Details. What do you want?
Well, so it'd have to be money, and space is no object, because I do currently have 7 harps. They're all small harp, smallish harps. But so if I had an extra room to store all the additional harps, I would love to own. There was a lady in Wisconsin recently that was selling a beautiful old harp that was kind of a mix of gold and black, and it was a pedal harp like you would see in an orchestra, but I believe it was actually a single action pedal harp, meaning that it was like from, oh goodness, the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And you can't, well, I wouldn't be able to use it for gigs, really, because I wouldn't be able to play the modern repertoire that I'm used to playing on it. But I could use it for Jane Austen YouTube videos, and it would be period accurate.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's one of the things I love to do is play music from Jane Austen movies or from the Regency time period. And I love to dress up and make YouTube videos. And one of the anachronisms is that my pedal harp is a very modern pedal harp that any harpist knows was made within the last 20 years. And nobody else knows, but the harpists know.
Sure.
And so I would love to have a beautiful antique harp that's still playable. Yeah.
Do people...
And the black and gold.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, the black and gold is a color combination that I really love.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Do people loan or rent out harps? Like, let's say you just wanted to use it for one night. Is that something that exists?
Yeah, it depends on your area. If you're in a big city, you're a lot more likely to be able to find somebody. But there are definitely just whole sections of the world where it would be a lot of work to get your hands on a harp.
Oh, I imagine. Yeah. But, like, let's pretend for a second that you wanted to do... Trey knows what I'm doing. Let's pretend for a second that you wanted to do a Jane Austen photo shoot with a harp that would be period accurate. And you didn't want to buy said harp because that was somehow extraordinary or exorbitant. And so it made sense to maybe use it for a day or borrow it or rent it or whatever they do.
Yeah, you definitely, I'm sure you could. You would just need to find a harpist that is excited about that idea.
Right.
Yeah. And make sure it's insured.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, this is a podcast about romanticism. We shouldn't be talking about insurance. But
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Uh, because our next question is, so we're doing a photo shoot in a castle. Do you want?
Yes, yes.
You might have heard
Oh
that
my
on
goodness.
some of the other episodes.
That
Sorry,
sounds
some.
Probably 100% of all of them. I can't think of one that it didn't come up, but I'm sure. Maybe like it didn't come up until we did the Rhinus one. So
lovely.
whatever happened before that.
Okay, fair enough.
If Mark and
See-
Elva, if you're watching, we don't know what life was before you. I'm sorry, Stephanie.
I feel like no, that's I'm always walking around old church buildings and like historical stone buildings in the Twin Cities and kind of seeing like, okay, if I put my camera here, you can't see the emergency exit sign or that parking lot, and that would look like a medieval castle or something, you know, or I could just crop it a little bit. Definitely, I have pictures of old buildings where I'm like, I'm coming back here someday to do a photo
Yeah. We're going to have to go to the Twin Cities, Trey.
shoot.
Yes. There are so many old churches that are in the Twin Cities that I just want to go in just for the acoustics.
Yeah.
There's something about walking into a place that has marble flooring, has these high sculpted archways, and like stone on the outside. There's something about when you walk into that, it's like almost walking back in time. Just ignore the exit signs, ignore some of the more modern functionalities, and just stand there and just listen for a second. And it is like going back in time.
Absolutely.
What's one of the coolest places you've played?
Oh, one of the coolest places.
Like they say things like, have you heard of the Red Rock Amphitheater? Like they say that's a really cool place to play because, and that's not in the cities, it's somewhere like New Mexico or something, I don't remember. Forgive me, I don't remember where it is. I'll have to look that up. But it's one of those places where the sound reverberates off the rock. And there's another place like that up near Grandfather Mountain in North Carolina where they've brought in acts for the Highland Games. And they'll bring in like a Scottish drumming, like Albanock or some of these other Scottish bands that'll play. And the way the sound reverberates off the mountain and off the rock is like phenomenal. And so I didn't know if like you had like a cool cathedral that you played in or any place like that where it's been just, it did something to the sound that was so cool.
Yeah, I see in the comments Archer has mentioned Carnegie Hall. That is actually on my goals list. I've sung in Carnegie Hall as part of a 300 voice choir, which was an experience. But I would love to be able to play harp someday. Hasn't happened yet, but I probably have time. Recently, actually, I played, it was for a wedding at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum, and they had this lovely terrace off the tea room that was made completely of stone, and you're kind of just looking out over a whole bunch of trees and this path that goes down to this little hidden waterfall, and things are covered in moss, and the sunlight was just kind of dappled on the terrace. And I thought, this is probably my favorite place that I've played. Not necessarily for the sound, but just because it felt like it was this beautiful setting that didn't necessarily feel like it was part of the 21st century to me. You know, I love that when you can imagine yourself back in time.
Yeah, I love that too. That's awesome. We'll have to get you involved with that castle shoot then. Stealing the castle library. The whole castle.
Game.
Yes, cool. We'll let you know. And you know Emily, she was Emily Schmink, but now she's Emily, is it Tag?
Teggy.
Yeah,
Teggy.
thank you, yes. Okay, cool. Yes, she was somebody who because she plays the harp too.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up hanging out with her quite a bit during that time.
Nice.
But yeah, she's part of the reason that we exist the way we do here on this podcast. She
Really?
probably doesn't even realize it.
Oh, that's so fun.
Sorry, my throat's really dry. Yeah, when we were first starting out as a magazine, she went to school for like graphic design. And I knew this. And so I wrote to her one day because we had gotten flat out rejected by a publisher. That was fun. Excuse me. Oh, toast to Caponis. Sorry, we have someone redeemed a toast to Caponis, so we're going to drink.
Oh,
Caponis was our friend and moderator and semi-producer of the show, and he has passed away about a month ago.
oh.
And we miss him, and so every now and then we toast to Caponis. Yeah, that was his username, Caponis. Joe was his name. Anyway, I'm glad you did that. So, what was I saying? So Emily helped me with the graphic, like with the layout of the magazine, so that we could have it published. She kind of just taught me some basics so that I could go ahead and do the layout myself, because I do.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so then it kind of morphed into being a podcast, and like I took the things she taught me and turned it into like some of the graphics that we use for the show, and yeah, so she was a huge help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She actually, she taught me how, well, she designed my website. If anybody
nice.
goes to my website, stephanieclaussen.com, Emily Teggy designed most of it. And then she also taught me how to maintain it myself.
Oh, nice.
So she's really a wonderful teacher and friend and has just a lot of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. Another connection from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still get together and jam sometimes, you know?
Oh.
Like just a couple different tunes, and she plays a couple different instruments as well, so we have a good time.
We'll have to invite her to the castle as well. We should do that.
So you understand that we're going to show up to this castle with like 200 people to be like, we're here for a photo shoot. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be a wild day, because there will be, I mean, I think we already decided that it needs to be like a whole weekend, but I mean, you're right. It's now, we're probably up into the hundreds, and it's a photo shoot, but we have Joy Marshall. There are probably other photographers we'll have to have there, because there's no way I can handle all that. And, at least, hopefully we'll have 2 harpists, and one lousy liar but a good singer.
Retrostoivis.
I don't know. I think we could pull it off. It'll just be like our own little Renaissance festival.
That's what I was thinking. It sounds like a festival. Yep. Or a reenactor weekend or
something like that. Yeah. With a bunch of photos that end up happening. Do you... go ahead.
Is there... I was looking at your website, and I've seen a couple of people that are inspirations to you, which I'll talk about afterwards. But I want to know, are there any currently performing artists or harpists or harpers that you find yourself listening to?
A lot of Scottish harpists at the moment. Like Pippa Reed Foster, Maeve Gilchrist, Ailey Robertson, Karina Hewitt. They're all Scottish people doing really cool things with trad music, traditional Scottish music, but then kind of adding a modern element or their own flair into it, whether that's kind of minimalism or jazz influence or just, I'm really a fan of kind of creating textures on the harp where it's not just, we're going to have the melody and then chords underneath of it. But how can I get this idea of the sun coming over the meadow at dawn? Well, I'm just going to have this little, and then Maeve Gilchrist does a lot of stuff like that. Super fun.
Cool.
It reminds me a lot of like it's I'm sorry, I'm having a butterfly moment. A thought was there and then it just poof. Um we'll come back to it. Um but how does jazz make its way into a harp? And how does that what does that sound like?
Mm. With great difficulty is what I would say. Yeah. I think most of my jazz music that I've played has been a result of people requesting pieces for their weddings, because I did a lot of weddings for quite a while, and people would say, oh, can you play, what are even examples? Jazz pieces that people like. And I would have to figure out how to translate them to the harp. So some of that is just the rhythm, like being able to feel a groove. And for me, it's sort of like you need to have this very steady pulse, and then your melody needs to be able to kind of slide all over it. It's not lining up exactly the way it would with classical music, but it's more like just a free entity that can kind of, well, it's going to come a little bit before the beat or a little bit after the beat. Mm-hmm. And you just have to let that happen. But then also there's a chromatic element where you need to be able to change keys and throw in sharps and flats, spur of the moment. And that doesn't quite come naturally on the harp. So there are a few geniuses that can really just play jazz on the harp, and they know it so well that they can improvise. But I think most people, most harpists, really are calculating, like, I'm in this key, and then I need to add these sharps or flats in order to get to that key and modulate, and then I have this chord. And it all gets quite technical, actually.
Do you find yourself writing a lot of your own music?
You know, it's a goal. It's something that I'd like to do more of. And I've kind of dipped my toe in during COVID. That first month of COVID, I wrote more music than I had written in my entire life. I didn't finish all those pieces, but I got, a good start on a whole lot of them. And yeah, it's something that's difficult for me because I play something and I think, oh, I've heard that before. It doesn't feel new. It feels kind of trite. And so I'm working on just doing it. It doesn't need to be a brilliant piece. Like the third or fifth piece that I write doesn't need to be a masterpiece. I need to, put in the time to become good at writing pieces that don't strike me as kind of blasé or cliche. So I've been working on it.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a logical next step from my perspective, but not everybody has that. So it's kind of neat to hear that it's a goal of yours, because I would love to hear what you would come up with.
Oh, thank you. I have a lot of wonderful titles. I have a list of like, oh, that would make a great title for a tune, and then I just have to write the tune.
Huh? I could totally. My light is doing crazy things. I can totally relate to that, because I have a lot of really great town and character names for the novel I'm going to write one day. But no plot line. So yeah, can relate.
I will throw out this might be good for like a laugh. One of the inspirations I saw on your website was Hildegard von Bingen, which I got very accustomed to listening to their masterpieces when I was in music school. There is a YouTube artist that goes by the name Hildegard von Blingen.
Yes, I am familiar. Yes.
For those who don't know much about it, Hildegard von Blingen takes modern pop tunes and then adapts it into what she calls bard, or what they call bardcore. And so they do a lot of very medieval style the adaptations of things, and they rewrite some of the lyrics to make them more of the period that they're going for. It's hilarious to listen to some of these songs because I think they did like Baby Got Back, and how they made that work was just hysterical.
Yeah,
So
it's really high quality music. Also, there's some harp playing in there, and I've been consistently impressed. And I just think it's so clever. All of the adaptations, it's really a thing of beauty.
What is something that inspires you to play? Is there something that, like, something that's not just, if I don't practice today, I'm going to be nervous tomorrow? Something beyond that really inspires you, like, I just need to go play. Does that exist? Or I just need to, like, you have a tune in your head and you just need to go get that out?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah. I can think of just a number. Like, okay, terror is a good motivation.
Yes.
As a performer, it's just like fear of, oh, I'm going to not play well is definitely a motivation. But consistently seeing other good musicians, they don't even have to be harp players. Any concert that I go to, I sort of wish that I had a magic exit button to just go and kind of take a moment out of time and practice and then just pop right back in. Like, I listened to one song, I'm like, okay, I want to go play my harp now. Can I just pause the world and do that and then come back? And then I think there are some, I don't know, like the weather. Sometimes if it's just one of those beautiful, moody days where there are really interesting clouds and rain or mist or wind, that really makes me want to just go and either play ancient Scottish tunes or make up my own,
Yeah.
Yeah. Watching Lord of the Rings.
I can relate to that. I've never wanted to go play a harp after that, but it definitely is a mood, and I'm here for it.
Yep.
Yes. Lord of the Rings. That's my favorite.
Now, harps are not very portable. So, I mean, ideally, you could just go on a massive hike somewhere and find yourself lost in the wilderness, and you would just pull out your harp and play, and that would be the ideal.
Right, just pull it right out of your pocket or whatever. Right.
Your Mary Poppins bag or something.
It's too...
I have those. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Some of my music videos were inspired because I found the perfect spot when I was going on a walk or a bike ride or something. I thought, oh, wow, that just looks like a different place. And then I have to kind of calculate, okay, where's the closest place that I can bring the car? And then what is the smallest harp I can use to play this piece that I need to, so I've definitely walked through some woods for a good mile with my harp. And it's not very romantic because you're just taking frequent breaks and kind of moving the harp from shoulder to the other shoulder, back to the first shoulder. And you have your camera gear and everything. But it's worth it. You get that moment in the middle where you're just like, yeah, here I am playing in the forest and it's lovely.
You get there. And then everybody who sees the video doesn't know what it took to make it.
Right.
That's the same with photography. I could totally relate to that with the photography.
Oh, yes.
It made me think of an idea that I want to talk to you about later. We cannot forget this moment. I'm going to have to edit this moment out of the podcast right now for later, for the listeners. They won't hear this part. But I have this idea for you, and I just want to pitch it to you, and we'll do it later. We'll do it after the show. So don't let me forget.
There's the thing that you need to tell me.
Yes, there's the thing. Right. It's just an idea. What was I going to ask? Do you have a question, Trey? I'm sorry, because I have another one, but I have a ton of them. We could go on forever.
Go for it.
I'm sorry. So tell me what one of the most fulfilling things is for you. I worded that poorly. What is one of the more fulfilling things for you with playing? Like, is it something like "Oh Danny Boy," where you're moving your audience, or do you have something about playing that is the most fulfilling for you? Or maybe it's teaching. That's up to you.
See, this is why I'm like, yes, it's good that I'm a professional harpist, because there are many things actually, and I'm having a hard time thinking this is the most. There's definitely an adrenaline rush that comes from giving a solo concert. And I'm doing more of those in the last few years. And I just really enjoy being able to create this curated hour and a half of music that I love. And then seeing the response afterwards from people who say that, the things that really get me excited also get them excited. That's a really wonderful thing. Like, I can just do what I love, and then other people are just like, yeah, that's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah. Everybody has an appreciation for those moments. Cool. Do you play music from Lord of the Rings?
I do. Yes.
That's exciting.
Actually, yeah, I have all of the books. Even like today with a harp student, she was like, you said you play some Lord of the Rings music. Could I learn some of that? And I'm like, yes.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Some of it is really difficult on the harp because it's written for the orchestra, obviously, and it changes key, which is just something that's hard to do on the harp. But I think it was a major factor in me getting better at some, just technically difficult things on the harp, because I was so motivated. I'm going to learn this music. I'm going to learn the Gandalf's Lament, which has some accidentals and stuff, and the Rohirrim theme, or the March of the Ents. The March of the Ents changes keys so many times. It's just this epic crescendo, and it keeps kind of modulating up and up and up and up. And as a harpist, you have to change all these levers or pedals if you have a pedal harp. It's a lot of work, but I was very motivated.
Yeah. I'm so glad you were.
So my question, talking about Lord of the Rings, if there was one character or like a group of characters that you could just pull out of the books and have as your audience, who would you pull out of the books and make them part of your audience?
Oh, an audience. I've never thought of that in my life. I was going to say Pippin and Mary, but then I was thinking they might not enjoy my music, but I think Frodo would really enjoy. He's like more thoughtful. He doesn't necessarily need like high energy. Fireworks. And a harp concert, people are often like, "Oh, that's so soothing," which can sometimes be annoying to me, because I want people to come away enthusiastic and excited and like, "Wow, that Irish jig she played was really energetic." And they're like, "Oh, I play this CD when I go to sleep at night." But I'm like, okay, it's helping them sleep. I'm glad for that too. But yeah, I would go with Frodo, I think. Yeah. I wouldn't mind Gandalf. I'd take Gandalf as well.
Oh, I was gonna say Gandalf.
I think you should be able to choose multiple characters.
Yes.
Yeah, Gandalf and Frodo together.
Thank you.
At your private concert. Would you hold that in? What city would you hold that in? Would you hold it in the Shire then, or like Rivendell, or?
Oh.
Where would you like to play?
This is maybe a little trivial, but I might feel slightly odd in the Shire because I'm 6'1".
Oh.
And so, I just might feel a little bit more at home in Rivendell. I think that would be a lovely option.
I can see that. Yeah,
I once...
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Some friends of mine were doing a recreation of the Prancing Pony at Convergence years ago. And so they invited me to play harp in their party room. and I had an elf costume, and so I dressed up as an elf, and my job was to play harp and make everybody else look short. I was like, I can do these two things. It was wonderful.
I bet. Yeah, I've always wanted to visit the Shire. I feel like that would be something, that's one place I'd like to go one day, even if it really is just New Zealand. And
Yeah.
but I never thought of the height thing. It never occurred to me that I would maybe be tall. Have you been there?
I haven't. It's definitely on my list, though.
I imagine it's like it's shorter because they built it for the hobbits, but well, no,
maybe
they built
they
it for
have
the
two.
they built it for the regular actors because they didn't have to be small when they were in the Shire. They could be regular size.
To scale with the real actors.
So it's probably regular size.
Yeah,
it's real people size. Human.
There you go.
Human sized. I never thought of
that.
that.
That it might actually be able to fit at 6'4".
All right. So I'm the shortest of the three of us. At like 5'8".
So Stephanie and I will stand on either side of you, and that way you'll feel extra short.
Yes.
Can we all be elves? Can we do that? We can all be elves. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I have fabric in my basement. I love to sew also, but I love to thrift. So usually I'm thrifting fabric and just I assemble fabric in that way in order to make a costume. So I have like the sleeves and maybe the collar piece of my future elf costume in the basement. I haven't gotten like the body of the dress yet because, when do you find 5 yards of velvet at a thrift store? I'm just waiting.
Yeah.
I did actually find a 1980s, and yes, specifically 1980s wedding dress randomly on sale at my local Goodwill.
Was it
was
velvet?
just standing. It was not velvet, but it was definitely some sort of like white silk of some kind with like the veil that had these massive white roses still in them.
Oh.
Anyway, just random things about thrifting.
You bought it, didn't
Yes.
you?
Oh, absolutely. I wear it every night. And then I go like terrorize people as the gray lady.
Oh dear.
Gray lady. If I find some massive amount of velvet, I'll know who to contact then.
Once I did see on Craigslist, or as a friend of mine, I think, who saw the ad, somebody was selling theater curtains, but it was like massive amounts, and you had to take the whole thing. And we just felt like we weren't equipped to deal with it at the moment, and I have definitely regretted it since then.
That's a lot of velvet. You might be able to take what you want and resell the rest.
Oh, that didn't even occur to me. That would have been a good idea.
There's actually a fabric outlet that's here, and they actually sell velvet sometimes. Is there a particular color that you're looking for?
I like dark blues or burgundies.
Good choices. Is that place on 77 we used to drive by all the time?
Yes.
Is it still open?
Yes.
That place was awesome. We got the best fabric there. They don't know what they have. They're like, we just sell for curtains and stuff, like interior decor, and then you find like really amazing fabrics in there because they don't know that they could market to Ren people.
Yeah.
Or costumers or cosplayers or whatever.
I actually need to go shopping for some fabric of my own, so I'll actually stop in later this weekend. And if I see like a dark blue or like a that's not too stiff, I'll send the information to Emily, and maybe we can get you some velvet.
Might be a little closer to my elf costume.
Very cool. Or if we have any listeners who happen to be swimming in velvet, let us know. Send us an email to swimminginvelvet at the mod. No, that email doesn't exist. Which one exists? Please sponsor us. We love you at themodrom.com.
I can promise you'll get some sort of Lord of the Rings themed YouTube harp video out of it.
That'd be so cool. I was going to ask if that was too much to ask for tonight. I just dropped it. Oops.
Oh, to play something?
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, so don't feel like you have to.
I'm wondering where the piece that I was playing for my harp student earlier today went. I cleaned my studio between then and now.
If you need to get up, you can. I want to know if. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Do what you need to do.
You can keep talking. I can still hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you remember the piano photo shoot I did, Trey, in my backyard in Rock Hill? That's the idea I'm going to pitch to her. Should I just do it on the air here? Would that be good for the podcast? for the stream?
Do it.
I just feel like if I could send her the pictures, she could have a bigger appreciation for it, because otherwise it just sounds like a safety issue and a disaster at the same time.
I did miss a certain portion of that, and I'm just imagining.
It's a safety issue.
Me playing the Grey Lady is actually a safety concern.
Oh dear.
It's mostly the breaking and entering portion.
The breaking and entering portion.
Well, it's not breaking and entering if they just like happen to leave a flimsy lock on their door and I just happen to know how to pick it. Jeez.
That's not breaking anything.
No. It's called fixing in reverse.
It's just reverse
I applaud
fixing.
you for your creativity.
Thank you.
Do you want to hear a little bit of this? This is the King of the Golden Hall.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much.
I'm not going to play the whole thing, though, because it gets complicated at the end. Let's see here.
Thank you for feeding my soul.
You're welcome. Right after the movies came out, I was a freshman in high school when the first movie came out.
Okay.
And I just feel like my entire high school experience was permeated by Lord of the Rings, and I was making costumes and playing the music and talking about it with friends and going to see the movies and reading the books and going on long walks in the forest. And yeah.
I remember we went to there was a theater in Woodbury, Minnesota, and we showed up in costume for it, like a whole bunch of us. And there was, you might even know some of the people that went, but there were guys in armor, and I made this big, long train Arwen dress, and a whole bunch of us went. And the theater manager came out to talk to us and thanked us for dressing up, because you couldn't walk but a couple feet down that hallway before the other people were like asking for pictures and things like that. It was a really fun night. And I remember.
It sounds fantastic.
That was what, 2000? Year 2000? 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember which year.
I can't remember.
Shame on
I think
me.
Yeah.
But yes, something like that. A million years ago, right? And same thing. Very cool. Thank you for playing that.
Yeah.
Sorry, my harp is a little out of tune.
We could
I
not
don't know.
tell.
No.
Okay, I could tell.
I'm
But
sure
hopefully
you could tell.
people weren't bothered. That's one of the benefits of having played at the Renaissance Festival, actually, because, it's outside. You're just outside the entire day long. And the harp changes pitch depending on whether it's getting hot or cold. And so you're tuning all day long. But you can't keep it in perfect tune. Harps, they really do go out of tune quite quickly. And so you do just get used to playing in an out-of-tune harp more than other people.
That's a lot of strings to tune, too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you do it by ear?
I could if I had to, but it's a lot less time and effort. I just have an electronic tuner that I use. And it's pretty hard for me if there's any other sound going on, or especially if there's other music. I play in orchestras sometimes now, and one thing I've had to just tell myself, tune your harp before any of the other musicians start playing. And then no matter what your ears tell you, once everybody starts kind of, warming up, just ignore it. You can't trust your ears once you've got a room full of people playing in all the different keys that there are. You just got to go with it at that point.
Is that the same for singing too, Trey?
Yes, I sing in all the different keys, and then I go to my vocal. It kind of, for me, if I'm trying to think through something, like if I'm trying to sing it in my head and there's other music that's going on, you almost have to block out everything else in order just to focus on what you are specifically singing.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you're in the moment, you have to be so in the moment and not distracted by anything else, that if you do oh, there's a butterfly, then you're like, wait, where was I? And so it's a lot of how I'm trying to say this, a lot of filtered ignorance of other things.
Okay. I didn't know if you're... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, it sounds like it takes a lot of self-control, focus. You have to kind of control what you're listening to.
Yeah, and then you're when you're having to emote with somebody in the scene, you're like, okay, don't punch them in the face. I'm just going to caress their face now. Don't sing too loudly in their face. They have damage in their right ear.
Oh, no. This is what's going on behind the magic of the moment.
There's violence in the opera chorus.
I need to punch Steve later because he stepped on my costume.
Don't make me laugh. No, it's okay.
I had a very quick story. So I was performing in a relatively new opera in the chorus, and the tenor that they were bringing in still had not arrived. He was flying in from Paris, just off the tails of performing in yet another production. So didn't have a stand-in for something, and they're like, can we just have a male volunteer? All you need to do is just lay here as she sings and just pretend that you're dead. And I was like, me, done. So I go and I lay in this person's lap. What they didn't tell me and what I didn't realize is that she would be singing between a high C and a high E fairly consistently for about a solid 10 to 15 seconds. And this young lady had such strong vocal cords of steel that these were not just light, airy sorts of sounds. It was full blast in my face, about 2 feet away from my face. And we get done with the scene, and she just goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "What?"
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I never really thought about that. But if you have to project to your audience.
I think this moment just told me how much I could not do that job. If I was her, even if I could sing that well, I think I would just be singing in your face, and I would start laughing because there's no way I could get through that. I'm sorry, I'm terrible.
No, you're not.
I think I could act better than I could. I don't know. I'm sorry.
But just imagining, to correlate that back to the harp, like correlating that and just make little sonic booms every time that you plucked one of the strings of the harp and just like have someone like pelted with like sonic booms. That's kind of what I felt like I experienced.
I love that idea. I'm just going to go off on a tangent here, but it is inspired by what you just said. In fantasy novels, oftentimes harps have this like magical power, like they are used as a weapon to subdue the evil wizard or to protect the magic shield over our hero or heroine or something. And so the idea of being able to just do sonic booms, kind of like bam, bam, bam. I mean, that would be great. I would never use them, but just knowing that I could.
Maybe just as a distraction, not like as a weapon.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe that.
Or like standing
Okay.
in very close to the giant speakers at a concert, where you can literally feel the sound waves. That's kind of not necessarily in the short term, not a harmful experience, but it's a interesting sensation.
Talking about just like sonic booms and kind of the way that you have to use harps and things. Again, this is a little bit more of my ignorance speaking, but is there ever such thing as like a prepared harp? Kind of how there is a prepared piano sometimes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I haven't heard that. Well, have I heard that term? You can do different special effects where you're like weaving a piece of paper through the strings. So usually you've got this bell tone, but if you put a piece of paper, suddenly you're getting more of a percussion. Hang on just a sec. I'm just weaving a tiny piece of paper like down low at the bottom of the strings.
Interesting. Oh.
And this piece of paper is a little too thick. You need something that's like half an inch wide, ideally. And then you just get that kind of
That's a
percussive
very
sound.
different sound. Yeah, it's almost at least through the through the mic and the speaker, it's almost timpani or steel drum.
Yeah. And you can do like harmonics. Let's see, where is that harmonic?
Oh, that's neat.
That's not really a prepared thing, but it's just a special effect. And then there's a xylophone effect where you can press the tips of your fingers right down at the very base of the strings. And let's see here. Normally it sounds like this.
Okay.
But my fingers are just like tiny bit on the string at the very bottom.
The vibration is different.
Yeah, it's like kind of a cute sound.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, so you don't get it in a lot of pieces because you need both hands to be doing just those noises. And usually you want to be playing the melody with your right hand. And then most often the left hand is doing all the accompaniment. So it's nice to have that free so you can just get a fuller sound.
Have you played with other... I mean, obviously that's I don't know if I should call it a style or what that would be called, but again, my ignorance is showing. Have you played with other ideas with those things? Like, I'm thinking of like, have you heard of the piano guys?
Yes.
So you know how they like reach their hand into the piano and pluck those strings? Or so that's very different for a piano. Have you played with some of those ideas with the harp? Like, or I say those ideas as if they exist, but have you considered other ways?
Yeah, I haven't done a lot in my own work, just because they seem more contemporary to me, and I think I'm drawn more to things that feel old in general. Like, I love antiques, but I also think most of my music that I'm working on is older.
Sure.
Unless I'm doing pop covers. You know, sometimes I like doing pop covers and those. Yeah. I feel like I haven't explored them much. What I'm really excited to do in the future, I have, like I said, about 20 harp students, and every spring we do a harp ensemble for our spring recital. And then you've got a whole bunch of hands and a whole bunch of harps. And so you can kind of have one section of the students doing some sort of cool effect or texture or even like percussion drumming on the soundboard. And then the other people can be doing melody and other people can be doing chords, and you can switch off. And I think that appeals to me more because then you've got just a richer texture, got more going on.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. A room of harps, like dueling harps.
Yeah.
Different methods of sound.
Mm-hmm.
How so as you're teaching these young minds and young harpists and etc., what are some things that you do that you encourage them to challenge them? Yeah, I'm going to leave my question at that. What do you do what are some things that you do to challenge your students?
I think every individual has kind of a default in terms of how they play harp. Like I have some students who tend to play really aggressively. And so for that student or those students, I'm encouraging them to explore music that requires them to be a little bit more subtle in their dynamics, or like a slow air where they need to really be emotional and just, these two notes need to be slightly different in dynamic. You can't just bulldoze your way through it. And then I have other students who are just very gentle and very delicate, and everything just feels pleasant. And I'm like, okay, let's put some energy into it. Let's pick something fast and really dig, use the weight of your arms to get those accents in there. So I can't really say this is one thing that's hard for everybody, because there are just some students that blow me away with their ability, say, to play by ear. I have a couple students right now where I'm just teaching them by ear because they can pick it up. They can pick up very difficult music in a short amount of time without even needing to see the music on the page.
Wow.
Which is so not me. I need to see that. I'm growing in being able to learn by ear. It's something I'm improving in as well over time. But I started out reading sheet music, and so that's much more my comfort zone. Yeah. But I think also the one thing I'd love for my students to do is more listening of music, just to have more examples of great instrumentalists, vocalists, and to be inspired. Hopefully it has the same influence on them that it has on me. Listening to good music makes me want to make good music.
Yeah.
And that's actually something that my voice teachers and directors and those that are in the music world, we find ourselves emulating other people very subtly at times. There are things and tips and tricks that we pick up along the way that then become our style. So through listening to others, you find things that you like. So maybe those more timid players might be a little bit more forceful because they're like, "Ooh, I heard this really nice bolero, and I really like the way that they styled this," or something. So to anyone who's listening, we also encourage you to listen to many, 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 many styles of music, including the many albums of our guest here tonight.
Thank you.
And her entire YouTube channel.
And her entire YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
There are a lot of different styles of music on there. I'm not very selective. I just go with the next project that I feel inspired to do on the YouTube channel. So there's a kind of mixed bag.
Sure.
Well, that's perfect.
Do you have any big dream projects or like something you'd love to make happen someday?
I think right now I have a couple albums that I'd like to record, and I'm just not ready yet. I'd love to do another CD of hymns, actually, because there are a lot of beautiful melodies, and I think there's a lack of creative arrangements for hymns right now. A lot of them are just a little too straightforward for me. I want that to be just kind of a different take. I want to do a fairy CD.
Oh.
It's kind of there are a lot of traditional tunes that have like the Fairy King or the Queen of the Fairies, or just various tune names that I find interesting, and then also tunes that may not be titled about fairies, but for me, it makes me think of fairies, or like an enchanted wood, or, the veil growing thin between the worlds. There are just some pieces that strike you a certain way, and you have this feeling associated with them, or a mood or an atmosphere. And I have a number of pieces in my repertoire that I'd love to just gather together and put on an album. But I'm not ready yet. I just have a little bit more work. So in the next 10 years, I'm hoping to have those two out.
Those sound amazing, and they sound like they would both be well received and popular. At least from my opinion. Yeah. Those would be good ones.
So
I would enjoy them anyway.
Yeah. I think my other goal, which is very unspecific, is just that I would be invited to perform in more places around the world, in a way that it would be financially feasible for me to go there with my harp, or to find a harp there, But I would love to use my career as a way to travel the world.
Yeah. Have you traveled Have you traveled with your harp before?
The most I've traveled with my harp was down to South Carolina, actually.
Oh.
I drove for the Princess Margaret of the Isles harp competition, with this Scottish harp competition last spring down in Charleston.
Okay.
So, and I was too scared to fly. I thought it would be so much quicker to fly, but you read kind of mixed stories about flying with harps, and some people say that I had no problem, and other people were like, the flight attendants last minute said that I couldn't bring it on, even though I had gotten all the permissions and printed the things and bought the extra ticket. And so I just drove. Less stress.
And yeah, you don't have to think about it then.
Yeah.
And let's also point out that you were a finalist in that. Congratulations.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah.
I was very proud to be listed amongst those other harpists. It was a great honor, and probably the most terrifying thing I've ever done, but also extremely exhilarating. They kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations, though. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, and then other places that I've been, I've just borrowed a harp. You kind of email ahead, or you post on Facebook and you say, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh for such and such a weekend. Does anybody have a harp that's similar to this size or model? And the harp community is small enough that I just think it's lovely. Like, the vast majority of harpists in the entire world that I've ever had contact with, or even seen, them posting on social media, it's a very lovely group of people, with not too much squabbling. So I enjoy that.
Great.
Yeah.
It's good to have a supportive community that's friendly, I like that. That's pretty great.
Yeah. And we have a lot of people who come to the harp later in life, actually, because they'll have wanted, especially like when people retire, they finally have some extra time, maybe some disposable income, and they can finally fulfill their lifelong dream of playing the harp, that they never had time or money for earlier. So there's a huge community of adult learners who are playing like folk harp, Celtic melodies. And that's really fun to see as well.
Yeah. Because I imagine harps aren't inexpensive. I've never priced one, but I could see where that would require some investment.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, dare I ask, should someone want to purchase their own harp, What would be a decent price for something that is like a nice mid-grade to slash starter harp that they could get?
Entry level.
Yeah. A lot of people start with lap harps, that are like 2.5 to 3 feet tall, because they are cheaper. You could get a lap harp for like $500 or $600, maybe. But those are harder to play because they move around. You're kind of having to hold them to yourself and do all of the mechanics of playing. So I do recommend beginners buy a floor harp, and I'd say $2,000 is the absolute minimum. A nice harp would be like $4,000 to $5,000 for this, like 4 to 5 foot tall one, which is kind of the average lever harp. If you're talking pedal harps for orchestra, if you want to play in an orchestra, or if you're really into jazz music, I don't even know, maybe $10,000 is the cheapest.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if you want the full size, which is kind of the professional, if you want to be a professional, the cheapest one is like $22,000 or was when I bought it like 10 years ago. So it's probably a lot more now, actually.
So
Hello.
harps. Oh, go ahead, Trey. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to make a joke. So car or new floor harp?
And actually, I just measure everything in numbers of harps that you could buy. So people are talking about, I am buying this new house, or I got this new fancy convertible, and I'm like, wow, that's 3 pedal harps. Or wow, I could buy 12 harps for that.
I love it. The new measuring system.
Yep.
I like that. I used to do that in plane tickets. I could buy a trip to here with that kind of money, or a trip to there with that kind of money.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's a trip to Hawaii level harp, or a trip. That's a trip to the UK for 2 whole weeks kind of harp. That's a trip to the Giant's Causeway.
Oh, I was just reading a book about that the other day.
Oh yeah.
It's a fiction book, and they're talking about the myth of how it got started, the giant.
Yeah. It's so cool. Yeah. I haven't seen that in person yet. I say yet because I want to make it happen someday.
Yes. That is one place I have been to, and it was lovely. Yes.
It kind of looks like if you step on some of those different levels that they would move. And maybe that's just the video game brain. Do they move?
No, they don't, but okay. I had the exact same feeling about them, like they ought to, or they would.
Yeah, like it would, like it's, not that it would have a spring underneath, but it's almost like
gears.
Yeah, like if you step on the right combination, it would open a thing somewhere. Indiana Jones level.
Absolutely. Like a pathway up to Scotland. That feels in keeping with the myth. Like that there just be like this giant causeway that would rise out of the ocean or the sea, and you could just walk to Scotland.
So cool. Yeah. What are you thinking, Trey?
Lots of things. That it is a dangerous territory. Do not enter. But if you must know,
sorry, I was looking at my list.
It's okay. The image of, I've played so many video games where that thing has happened where you're on the side of like some cliff or something, and they have this obscure organ or something like that, and I just imagine that this video game character interaction, like sitting down to a harp and just like press X to play the harp. And then having this massive like staircase just like leading you up to the big bad evil guy.
I love that idea.
Video game developers, make this happen.
Yes.
It's Qbert, Giant's Causeway edition.
But you should talk, if you're doing this, you should talk to a real harpist and not trust photos on the internet of how a harp ought to be played, because, yeah, there are some interesting ones out there.
There are. I never even thought of that.
Have you seen the ones with like the people, the videos of the stock images of people like typing on their computer, and they go and they see like what are they actually typing, and it's just like FG R5, and they're not actually typing
Or,
words.
like there's one of someone holding a soldering iron, and they're holding it like a pencil near the tip, and you're like, that's impossible. It would be very hot.
Yes, that level of thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they've got the harp upside down or something.
Yes.
Now, here's a great question. What is one sentence that would make the entire harp community just flip over a table in anger?
Oh, in anger. Oh, I'm not sure
Outrage.
even.
My idea that I haven't told you about yet. Excuse me. Sorry.
That's kind of a difficult one for me. I think the closest. Well, no, I don't know. Something that is a little bit annoying is the connection between angels and harps, which is a very strong connection, and people often associate the two, which is fine. But then you end up having a lot of conversations with people about the same thing, and it stops being interesting after a while, and you'd like to talk about other things.
Do you get compared to an angel or called an angel a lot?
Yeah, which I don't find insulting. I mean, that's a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But there are just some things that come up quite frequently, or people like doing glissandos or being very excited about glissandos. Like glissando is very a typical harp sound. And it's one of the easiest things you can do on the harp. Literally, you're just running your finger across the strings, and anybody can do that, having played harp for about 2 seconds. And so it's not really exciting to us, me personally, but it can be very exciting for other people. So that's just kind of a balance where you're like, well, that's fine. That's part of my life now.
We can apply that to so many things.
Now, imagine this note from a director. Stephanie, I want you to play Oh Danny Boy with so many more glissandos in it.
I'll be like, I can recommend a lot of really great harpists to you.
Excuse me, I'm coughing. I'm using the wrong mouse to mute myself.
I'm sorry, Emily.
No, it's okay. I just have to blow my nose real quick.
All right. So speaking of strange, this is getting a little off the rails here. But speaking like musician to musician, has there ever been a time where you've received feedback from someone and they've given you a musical direction that is a little odd?
Oh, like something that's not possible,
like more,
or that you
like
just
more bass.
Or it's like
Can you give us-
needs more cowbell or some level of like ridiculousness.
Well, I think it's often an orchestra where the conductor is just like, I need more there, and you are physically playing as loud as you possibly can. And I used to be like, oh, I don't think I can, and now I'm like, I'll do my best, because there's just a limit to how loud you can get sometimes. And then when you're competing with a whole orchestra, you probably don't win.
You can only do your best, right?
Yeah. I think that's the main thing. Or just being sent music ahead of time that is not playable on the harp, because sometimes you'll have people that just have never written for the harp and they just write whatever sounds nice on the computer program, and then you get the music and you look at it and you're just like, I have to figure out how to kindly word this or to give some suggestions of how it could be made playable, and that can be an awkward conversation sometimes.
Thank you for spending plentiful amounts of hours on this, what I'm sure sounds like a lovely piece of music. In terms of reality, I must inform you that this is not feasible by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Can I offer my consultation services to you to make this functional?
Yes. I have, though, had other composers reach out to me and like send a sample and say, can you just tell me, is this the right direction or not? And then I can send them feedback.
That's
And
awesome.
I love, I think most harpists are really wanting to play music that they, that works on the instrument, and they're willing to give feedback. And some harpists really do have a professional consulting, like, you're a composer, set up a session and we'll, have a lesson basically on how to write for the harp well. I see more of that nowadays. It's exciting.
That's great.
Yeah.
For those that are aspiring to play the harp, what words of advice do you have?
I think that most people, in my observation, kind of have a honeymoon phase with the harp, where they just love every sound that's coming out of it, maybe for up to a year. And then there's a little bit of a pit of despair that hits. I don't know if this is encouraging or not, but it's what I've observed from being a teacher, that usually your ear develops faster than your physical ability to play, like the technical skill. And so you need to just kind of push through that pit of despair and don't give up. It's like you really will improve to meet what your ear is telling you want to sound like. So, and that might be a year or something where you're feeling like, I don't play very well. But as a teacher, when my students come back after 2 weeks, I can hear the improvement. It's very encouraging to me. And then I'm just trying to convey that, like, you really do sound better or more comfortable or fewer buzzes than you did last week. So yeah, beware the pit of despair, but don't get stuck in it. Just keep going. Yeah. Oh, and I would say also try to rent a harp first. Don't buy a harp right off the bat, because you don't necessarily know what kind of harp you want, and they are expensive. So if you rent one for a couple months, 6 months, you can kind of decide, oh yeah, this is what I like, or I like that one better, and then invest.
That's a good
really
idea.
smart.
Yeah. I know someone who likes to do that with sporting equipment. I want to try downhill skiing. Let me go buy all the top of the line skiing stuff, and then they find out later they didn't like it, and now they have thousands of dollars, and yeah, that's a expensive lesson to learn.
Yeah. Harps do look very beautiful if they sit in the corner of your living room, but I always feel a little bit sad when people have harps and they're not playing them. I mean, there's always hope then that they might come back. So I'm not necessarily saying you can't have a harp. You should just always keep the harps you have, but if you have them, you have to play them also.
You have to do more than just dust them off.
There's a piano that my dad had that my mom is forever trying to pawn off on me because I am the musical person of the family, and it's this upright piano that she just does not want it with all of her life, and it's great. It's super nice. It's like a 1950s upright piano, but it is so severely out of tune. And I do not have the space, and my mom's just like, here, and I'm like, I don't have the space.
Yeah.
It would literally be sitting in my house just with no one playing it until I got it tuned. But does it look nice? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, if you need ideas, I have ideas.
No,
Okay.
no, Emily. If anything, I'll have to donate it to a church.
Mm.
But because I know where she's taking that. But Stephanie, what I do want to ask you is, what are some socials? What are the most effective ways that people could stay in contact with you or keep up to date with what you're doing?
Yeah. I guess it depends on yeah, what you'd like. If you are interested in only the highlights, like upcoming concerts, I would say sign up for my email newsletter list, which you can find at my website, www.stephanieclaussen.com. If you want kind of more of the mundane parts of, well, I don't know, are they mundane? The things that I find exciting about my harp career, Facebook, my professional page on Facebook. If you're interested in more of the random shots of the afternoon tea I'm having and an occasional little harp snippet, Instagram. If you're just there for the music, subscribe to my YouTube channel.
And actually, you should do all of this because we believe in supporting our guests. So,
well, thank you.
And you should just go check it all out because Stephanie's amazing. No pressure, but pressure, pressure.
Under pressure.
Right.
With that being said, Stephanie, I really do have to thank you for being on tonight. Thank you so much for educating us, and thank you for sharing your artistry with us. Stephanie, sorry, I called Emily Stephanie now.
It's better
Emily,
than, what was it, Suzanne? Or you called, yeah.
Yes, I called her Suzanne
You
earlier.
would not know that we've known each other for over 10 years.
Sometimes my brain is like a melting pot. But in all sincerity, thank you so much for educating us. Thank you for sharing your artistry. Thank you for satiating us with Lord of the Rings content.
Yes.
We want more.
Anytime.
We'll invite you to our big castle event as soon as we find a castle to heist.
I will come.
Excellent.
Yes. And I want to thank you guys for even having this podcast. When I got your email and I was like, there are other people. I mean, in theory, I know there are other people that love this romantic or romanticism. And I was like, there's a podcast for that? That's amazing. So I was very encouraged and just excited to be invited to be part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for saying that. That means a lot. It's good to hear that we're doing something right. Because it feels right, but, you know, there's just two of us. So now there's more. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels really good to hear that. I don't know if you realize it.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yay.
It's true.
Yay. Well, with that, we do typically like to end our podcast with a quote, and the quote that I have tonight is from, and I am going to butcher this name, and my apologies, from Bong Ha Lee, from On Rusticism. Our objective as a realist is to maximize our worth, and our objective as a romanticist is to be foolishly youthful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, some last minute announcements here as we wrap up tonight. We do want you to check out our online store. We are pretty much now on every single major podcast outlet available. We did move into your home about 2 months ago. We did eat all of your adorable petitfours, tea cakes, and cucumber salads, and we did drink the freshly squeezed lemonade. I do recommend just a little bit more raspberry next time. Thank you.
So good, though. So good.
Oh, it's so good.
So
And if you want to send us more treats, please email us at sendustreats@themodrom.com. That is a real email. If you would like to sponsor us, please sponsor us. We love you at themodrom.com. Also a very real email. Thank you to our moderators. This episode, along with every single podcast forever and ever and ever, is in memory of Joe Capone, our moderator, fellow comedian, critic, encourager, and great friend. You listen for free, wherever you listen, wherever you get, acquire, attain, wrestle for, plunder, pillage, or download podcasts, whatever. For updates and announcements and info on who our next guests are, please follow us on social media. With that being said, as we wrap up tonight, for those that are newer viewers to us on the Modern Romantic podcast, we do also like to raid another channel, another artist. Our belief is promoting other artists as we go forward to show that Twitch is not just for gamers; it's for everybody. So in that, we like to give back and support others. So who are we rating tonight, Emily?
Well, I didn't have. We can choose. We could choose between supporting another artist, which is what we typically do, or we can go raid Joe Capone's good friend Jerry Rocha.
Ooh, that's a that's.
We've never raided him before.
Okay, I vote for anything Capone related. Let's go raid.
Okay, I mean, I'm all about. We do have a couple of artists on that we have raided before. But they look like they've got good viewership right now. So Jerry only has 11 viewers, so I think that would help him out.
Jerry.
Too. Okay.
It's Jerry tonight.
I'm ready.
So viewers, you do not have to do anything. We will take care of the hard part. You just need to sit in your seats like you're sitting in the oh my gosh, what did that thing the car from Back to the Future? The word that came to me was the Mandalorian, and that's not right.
The DeLorean?
DeLorean.
Thank you.
I was hoping you'd come up with something from Lord of the Rings, but here we are. Just pretend you're on Shadowfax riding across the plain. But no, here we are in the DeLorean.
All right, and I'm going to get Read the House Down by my co-host. Thank you.
I'm sorry. All right, so...
Fine, just throw me...
Oh,
go ahead.
Stay
just
put.
Throw me into...
Sorry, we did it again.
So stay put. I'm going to go hop into the pits of Mordor.
It's been nice knowing you.
Cast him into the fire.
It is done.
You have to, as you fall in, you have to go, my precious. My precious. That was good. That was good. Well, you know what? We should do like a Lord of the Rings script reading next time. We do a script reading.
Can we do it in like wacky voices?
More so than normal.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I don't care. I just want to do something like that. I think that'd be cool.
Okay.
Like a Missouri accent Gollum.
Yes. My precious.
Southern Gandalf. Yeah, Archer said Southern Gandalf. My precious. Fool of a toque. Excuse me. Goodness. Jersey Pippin. I can't think of lines now. Okay, we're rating. Bye, everyone. Okay, it's switched and we're offline now. I want to say hi to Jerry quick, but then I want to tell you about my idea. So
I will stay.
Say hi real quick.
Yeah.
I have to turn my speakers on here.
I am so sorry. Stephanie, in all sincerity, that was awesome. Thank you so much for being on tonight.
My pleasure. This is a lot of fun.
There are definitely moments where we get a little off the rails, but...
But, my sister listens to a lot of podcasts, and she was saying it's like having a conversation with friends. And she was literally telling me about a podcast. And she's like, well, I was talking to this. Oh, no, I was listening to the podcast because it felt like she was in a conversation. And so, yeah, it's the personality.
Hold on, he's talking. Oh, I can mute my mic if that's too loud. Is it too loud?
A little bit.
Okay, sorry.
It's all good. Um,
Funny.
it's God. Now I want to do like one of the Lord of the Rings. Oh God! Imagine imagine Sauron, or I don't know, giving Sauron's voice a Boston accent,
I can't. I'm not good at accents. I almost can't even imagine.
or Frodo a Midwestern accent.
Oh dear.
Okay.
For me, that's kind of like I watched some K dramas recently, and I always watch them in Korean. But every so often, I'll watch a trailer and it has it dubbed with just your typical, yeah, American voice, and it just feels wrong to me. Like suddenly, this is
I
discordant.
no, no.
Yeah.
Um,
He's in the middle of
so
playing a game and he's not really talking to us, and I'm not sure if I should leave or not.
no worries.
So I'll
All
just
right.
turn it
So
down.
okay. So what K dramas do you watch?
Oh, I like the not depressing ones.
Yes.
Is that the one? They're very emotionally moving. Is that what you? What do you send me? It's like TikTok videos that are.
Oh, do you watch K dramas also?
I've watched a couple.
Okay.
I don't remember the titles, but I just remember watching them and going, "Wow, you use motifs a lot."
Yes, definitely. They were very unique when I first watched, like the first three that I watched. I was like, wow, this is totally different from American storytelling and blah, blah, blah. And then you start seeing the patterns and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of know what's going to happen with this. And it's, yeah, I always look up, though, does this have a happy ending? And if it doesn't have a happy ending, I don't watch it. I'm just like, I have enough difficult stuff to deal with in my own life. I don't need to watch other people's made up difficult stuff, you know?
Oh, he's talking now.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Give me just a second.
Don't worry, I'm not in a hurry. I have
it's
nowhere
okay.
else to be.
My friend got me when they were on Netflix, they would like spiral with some Thai dramas, and then they would have some K dramas at the same time.
Okay.
And so my friend who is also into anime was just like, right, so you're going to watch this, and then you're going to go into this, and then this person actually was the voice actor in Korea for this thing, and would just like to link it all together. And so at some point, it just kind of all melted together. And I don't know, remember what I watched. I just remember going, this is a lot. This is a lot.
So was it
Um,
not a positive experience?
I mean, it was a positive experience. I think it was more so just the inundation of like the narrative
Okay.
thread through everything was
Mhm.
just like this to this to this to this, and just like basically handed me a you need to watch this list. I think that was just the over inundation of
Oh, yeah.
an oversaturation of stuff.
Yeah. I find that that can happen with a lot of things, though. Like if you get talking with somebody who really likes to read and they suddenly